Welcome to You Can't Break Us, the podcast sharing real stories of parental alienation and family court injustice. I'm your host, Kaylin Hawkinson. Each episode, I sit down with brave guests who open up about their personal journeys, the pain, the resilience, and the fight for justice. These stories are raw, real, and powerful because speaking out is how we break the silence and remind the world, you can't break us. Hi, Sonya. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you coming on and openly sharing your story with us. If you could get us started sharing where the alienation began and then from there, what happened.
Okay, so in my case, in 2016, I fled to a shelter because there was physical abuse going on as well as the other forms of abuse. Since then, there's been an onslaught of attacks through the judicial system, slander, lies. However, the hard alienation did not begin. The no contact type of alienation did not begin until the court ordered him to pay $411 of child support. We did have 50-50 at the time, but I was a stay-at-home mother for 10 years and homeschooling our children. So when the court ordered him to pay $411, I did not request child support prior because I knew the type of situation it could have caused, which it did. He alienated my children really quickly. There's always been a form of alienation dealing with these type of people, in my opinion. For example, when we were married, he would say things to our children like, "Daddy is more important than mommy." And it was very clear to the children. They can testify how Dad has always made it clear he was more important than me. But the no contact alienation happened when the court ordered him to pay child support.
Okay. So really the child support, it's like he retaliated almost to having to pay, and now he's really going to do his best to really cut you off from the
I think
children.
it's more than retaliation for these people. I
Yeah.
think that these individuals are pathogenic, and I think because that is their life, their tie is with their money. And when you attack their money, you are attacking them directly. So I believe that these individuals go in fight flight mode. I believe because parental alienation is happening all around the world, and these parents are all doing the same things, like verbatim, and they did not call each other and say, "Hey, how did you alienate you?" They're all doing the same thing. So when somebody has the flu, it's a flu because they have the same symptoms. These parents are all literally doing the same thing. So I believe these pathogenic individuals go in fight flight mode, and they obviously are in fight mode, and it could last a decade, and they do not I believe maybe they do realize, maybe they don't realize to the extent how severe their abuse is toward their own children, because they're willing to do anything to win.
Yeah.
Whether in court, once they enter the courtroom, and they realize, oh, there's no penalty of perjury. And they learn they could play a game with the courts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we go into a decade of devastation. Our children endure severe abuse. They have no contact with their targeted parent. And we are all crying out for help. And the law has not caught up yet. In my opinion, abusers evolve. This is something that I want to share, and I'm not a professional. I don't have any qualifications. I'm just sharing my thoughts. I'm a mother who went through this. And back in the day when Ted Bundy and all of them rose, the psychopaths, they started doing the same things. They started murdering people, and raping people. And law officials, they received help from a medical professional. I believe it was a nurse. It may have been a doctor, but a medical professional to understand, to learn the psyche of the psychopaths in order to stop them. In my opinion, we all know that these pathogenic parents, they're either borderline narcissistic personality disorder, in my opinion, sociopaths and psychopaths. We know for sure they are in the dark triad. So they are manifesting all around the world. So I believe parents that are alienating their children to this degree, parental alienation to this degree, I believe they are exposing themselves all around the world. I believe that they can be diagnosed. Parental alienation is a confirmation of their illness.
Yeah.
And I have some solutions. I have, I don't know if you have some questions, but there are some things that I believe that we can do because yes, there's court corruption. Yes, there
Right.
indeed have been judges and law, attorneys that have taken advantage of us high conflict parents. And I will say, to many of their benefit, many of them probably thought both parents are doing this in the court system. Both these high conflict parents are going to do this to the kids anyway. Let's get their money from them. However, some of them know the evil that's taking place and they go along with it anyway.
Yeah.
So but now that there are many victims that have recovered and are speaking out against this, children that have gone through this, parents that have gone through this, they can no longer continue to turn a blind eye or deal with this inappropriately.
Yeah.
This is severe abuse and it needs to be dealt with appropriately. And I know there's a batch of people out there that says parental alienation does not exist. Okay, that has to stop now.
Yeah.
Okay, that has to stop now.
I agree.
I believe there's a difference in parental alienation and estrangement, and in my case, we are going through both. I have a total of 5 biological children and a stepchild who is like my own. 3 of our children are completely alienated, and 3 of them are estranged. Now, a lot of people have confusion over this. Parental alienation is when one parent is manipulating their child to reject their healthy parent with no just cause. It is a severe form of child abuse. It affects the children's attachment system as they are developing. Children that go through this suffer the symptoms similar to those who go through sexual abuse, because the perpetrator has to get them to, he has to gain their trust and get them to comply. He has to groom them. So all of my children were exposed to parental alienation. I'll tell it to you this way. My firstborn, who is now 17, when he was 13 years old, I'm sorry for the noise.
Oh, that's okay.
When he was 13 years old, he was manipulated to write a threatening text message from my phone to his father's phone and then delete the text message. My ex obtained a restraining order due to that, and then, quote unquote, had my son run away. And then that's when the alienation began, where my son refused to come home to me. I didn't know he wrote this text message the whole time. I thought he hacked my phone. I didn't know what to think. But, I was alienated from my firstborn for a year, and then he went after my secondborn son. He alienated him, and shortly after, went from my only daughter, he alienated her, and then he was going after our other son. And I will have to limit as much I say because this is an ongoing case for me.
Yeah.
So, my children, some of them did break out of it, thank God. And it's been a very hard journey. We're still going through it. So estrangement, let me get back on track. Parental alienation is when one parent does that. It manipulates a child with unjust cause to reject the other parent. Estrangement is when a kid is indeed with an abusive parent and they know their parent, there's something off. The kid is scared of the parent, genuinely.
Yeah.
And they're afraid to go back to their parent. Now, this is where it gets difficult for the courts because the courts don't know who's who.
Right.
And the abusers are going to play the part. They are going to claim victim. They know they're bringing such confusion to the courts. They're laughing while we are bumping our heads. So some solutions that I believe we can find, and I will go gear away from my case because my case is still ongoing right now. You could watch some of my other videos. The court did, I will say this much. Some of my children were terrified to return to their father with just reasons. Their principal testified, their emotional support teacher testified, multitudes testified. The children testified, and long story short, I took them to every exchange. I honest to God, normal people are terrified to break the court order. Okay.
Right.
I took them to every exchange. And my children were splitting before my eyes. I couldn't, they would not go with their father. They were afraid. And even though we testify, and I did many ex parte orders, I did emergency orders, their dad had, and another important factor to this is, and I will say this because it's in public records already, their father had it. Okay, so my firstborn that was alienated from me, after being alienated from me for 3 years, I fought hard for conjoined therapy. I will honor this attorney, if I may here. His name is Peter Thompson from T&B Legal. He went $50,000 in debt to protect me and my children because he saw what was happening. He
Oh,
saw the
wow.
courts failing to protect us, and I honor that man. But he fought to help me get conjoined therapy. It's almost impossible to get somebody like these parents to comply, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but I was able to reconcile with my oldest through conjoined therapy with the professional that knows the difference between estrangement and parental alienation. This professional actually is the one that taught me this.
Okay.
And I reconciled with my firstborn son. So the way I reconciled with him, though, is that his father ended up yanking him out of the vehicle by his ankle and
Oh,
then acting
wow.
like he was going to run him over. And
Mm-hmm.
then my son got a restraining order. Well, my children were already ordered back to their father at that time. They had gone one time, and after he did that to their older brother, they were extremely more terrified.
Yeah.
And we did many emergency orders. Family Code 3044, 3040, Family Code 3044 should have stopped visitations because when a parent is guilty of abuse, and in his case, he was guilty of a domestic violence restraining order for attacking one of his children, the
Mm-hmm.
court is supposed to stop visitations until the perpetrator of abuse overcomes a presumption code, presumption code 3044. None of
Okay.
that was done, and my children were still ordered back, and my children already went through the devastation, and they're still going. Like I said, my case is ongoing, but the
Mm-hmm.
court found me guilty of 10 counts of contempt. And it was wrong because if you're guilty of contempt, you have to willfully do it. Know what you're doing. My children were genuinely terrified. I still took them to every exchange. We were terrified. We were in a situation. We did emergency orders telling the judge Family Code 3044, and they still found me guilty of 10 counts of contempt. I did have a miracle though, and I don't know if I can share that, but I did have like a supernatural encounter the day before my sentencing, where I basically, you could go to I did a video about my dream where I saw, basically I saw Jesus in my dream, and somebody told me that this was God was going to use this. And then in court, the judge said that he thought about over the weekend, he thought about sentencing me for the full 50 days in jail, which I would have lost custody of my children,
Yeah.
you know,
Wow.
and they would have been with somebody that wasn't seeking their best interests. I pray to the Lord that he begins to even now, because I have to have that hope. My children are with him right now.
So they are still with him currently.
Yeah,
Okay.
we finally got the judge because then my ex, there's an open CWS investigation because there was false allegations of sexual abuse from my stepdad, and he was trying to get our 10-year-old to say his stepdad abused him, and my son will not comply. So he, there's, like I said, and the reason I'm sharing this publicly too is because we needed help.
Yeah.
They were going to possibly put me in jail wrongly. And, I held the judge accountable. I did raise my voice to the judge, telling him how it was a grave error for the court to ignore Family Code 3044 because we are a family that's genuinely going through what a lot of people claim that they go through. And that's why the judge that we have right now is an amazing judge. He's a righteous judge, even though he held me guilty of 10 counts of contempt. That's what the other judge should have done when my ex was withholding our children.
Yeah.
If they would have held them in contempt, this is why I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Garza's law, the three strikes law.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really, I'm for that. I'm trying to help get that law established in our state. That law would have protected us both ways. It would have protected us because when parents are claiming, what these alienators do is they claim victim. They manipulate the children to say, that the healthy parent's abusing them.
Right.
That's why it's such a severe form of abuse. This is why it's such a hard thing for the courts to decipher. I get
Mm-hmm.
it. But now there are ways to do it, like Robert Garza's law. There's a way to vet these parents. So when they claim, oh, the other parent's abusing and they withhold the children, okay, let's get the professionals involved. They need to be involved to determine what's going on here. And
Mm-hmm.
once we stop it in the very beginning, it'll stop. There's consequences for parents that will withhold their children unless there's true abuse, like
Right.
in many of our situations. In that case, if there's true abuse, a genuine safety concern, and a parent did withhold for that reason, they must get the professionals involved and even then, to withhold the child completely from their other parent, like to cut them out of their life for good. Like even an
Yeah.
abusive parent, like genuinely that wants to get help, they can go get help. They don't have to have visits right away. They could overcome the presumption. That's why that law is there. Because
Mm-hmm.
parents that make mistakes can still get help, overcome presumptions, but we're not dealing with those types of parents. This is how we could vet them out.
Yeah.
because the
And
parents that we're dealing with will go on and on and on.
yeah. And we want those professionals to actually be required to have this knowledge because so many professionals out there are not, they're not required to know of parental alienation. And I know that term is a ongoing kind of debate, but right now we're referring to it as parental alienation. But yeah, those cases, we want them to be required to have that knowledge because otherwise they step in and they can make it worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's why I've been in the judicial system for a decade. We had a minors counsel jump in that, in my case, there was court corruption. Concrete evidence of it.
yeah.
The Lord would deal with that. I'm after my children. Okay, the
Hmm.
Lord would deal with that. I did what I was supposed to do. I had to have all the documentation, everything I was supposed to do. I did. So my
Yeah.
story is solidified within the judicial system. But the wrong professionals that don't know how to decipher what child is being manipulated this way, they do make it worse. Absolutely. And like I was saying, the professionals went to the help. They went to the help of medical professionals. Law enforcement went to medical professionals to learn the psyche of these individuals. That's what needs to happen right now.
Hmm.
They need to learn. It's hard to understand if you haven't gone through it.
Yeah.
So they need to really open their ears to those. Leave out parental alienation syndrome, whatever. Leave out the syndrome. This is such a ridiculous debate. Parental alienation is real. Parents are manipulating their children to reject a healthy parent. They're grooming their children. They're causing their children to comply, even to the point when their children don't want to. And it is hurting their children
Yeah.
severely. Their children are suffering as if they went through sexual abuse. And it's also domestic violence by proxy. Not only is it severe child abuse, it's domestic violence by
Right.
proxy because they are doing it to hurt their exes.
Right.
And we have no protection whatsoever. Penal codes are being violated. Not only family codes are being violated, penal codes are being violated. But in family code, criminals can walk free. This is what needs to happen. There's a gap in family court and criminal court. That gap needs to be filled. When a parent is breaking penal codes, they need to shift over to criminal court and be dealt with appropriately.
Yeah, especially multiple times to show that there's a pattern of that. Why is nothing being handled? And for my cases, I know each time because you are told kind of that for parental alienation types of scenarios and dynamics that you need to prove that it's an ongoing pattern, right? You need to show that they've done that. Well, when I've had cases, they said, you know, the last case you had, that's you don't talk about that or prior. You start with the new case. So I was actually never allowed to show the pattern or to bring up the past. And I thought, why is that a thing? If you need the pattern, if you need me to prove evidence, why are you saying we're not even allowed to go back and show that this has been a pattern for years? So that something with that needs to change. I understand they don't want to bring up all these cases if you've had multiple things, and they try to stick to the case you're in. But if the point of it is to show it's ongoing, then you need to allow us to show that it's ongoing.
It
There's
boggles
so
my
many
mind.
things.
It,
Yeah.
it, baff- it boggles my mind. Even recently, the recent CWS worker, I told her, you need to learn mental health to help these types of cases. And she scoffed and laughed in my face and said, I
Yeah.
don't need to learn mental health. Like, I didn't go to school for mental whatever. And I'm like, then that's why you're not able to help these cases. I asked to speak to her supervisor or whatnot. But yeah, they weren't. I'm like, didn't you open the prior case we've been in since 2016?
Yeah, and the
But falling
amicus,
through the
the
cracks.
the amicus on my last case, the very first time she spoke to me, one of the first things she did, she was horrible. She really very horrible person. My lawyer agreed she was in it for money because she was asking for thousands that she did not work for. I mean, it was very clear. That's, it was awful with her, but she said, she yelled at me and she was like, you need to stop going to court. Well, so overall, over 15 years span, we had 4 cases. But to think I did not go to court just to go to court. He was constantly breaking orders. He was alienating. He illegally withheld my child more than once and got away with it. So to think that you should look into why court cases have happened. Don't just yell at me, stop going to court. Like
If you stop going to court, you would lose your child for good. Our kids are being kidnapped and we are running to the court saying, help me, help me,
Yeah.
help me. And they're not being able to
And
help us.
then they yell at you for going to court on top of that sometimes, like in that instance. But yet, if, the parent illegally withholds the child, like in my cases, the only answer that you're given is go back to court. So you go back to court and you're yelled at that, why are you continuing to go to court? You shouldn't be going to court all the time. Why aren't you
Well,
handling
this
him?
is this is where the courts are wrong. Well, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. They're withholding the children. This is where they're breaking penal codes. This is where they're infringing on your rights and your children's rights. This is where the police come in and they're supposed. This is where they need to do something. They say it's a
yeah,
civil matter. I'm sorry, go back to court. You go back to court, and then they make you wait months or whatever, however long they're going to
yeah,
make you wait. I've been in court for 9 years straight, and then I understand there's no help right now,
yeah. And then
and
that lets them have the child, they know court is going to take a long time. It's a process. So not only is that, in this specific scenario, the parent is illegally withholding the child, let's say. So you have to go back to court and they know that that takes months. The child remains there while court continues. So that
And the child is
also,
getting more alienated because these children are being taught to hate their other parent. They literally have their 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 the alienators obsessed with, in my case,
yeah.
obsessed with speaking horribly of me all the time,
Hmm.
and that's when they get praised. So the longer the kids are away from us, the worse it is because they reject us more and more, and they
Yeah.
go in fight flight mode. They go in survival mode. They're in
Hmm.
survival mode. These children, they have no choice. Like my son told me when he came back, he said, "Mom, we had no choice. I had no choice."
Right. Yeah. My
Oh.
son has made comments like that before too, that, they have to comply with that parent. And to think, a child is growing up in that environment, they're learning the characteristics of the narcissist. They're learning that this is the way to behave or this is the way to treat your other
Those are the words
parent.
of the mother. That's the mother in you.
Yeah.
That's the mother in you. Where our children are going through severe abuse and all this, the mother in you is also me as well, worried. Like I don't want my children to grow up that way.
Right.
This is why everybody needs to make it personal because, it's breeding and it's multiplying. And it's a matter of time before it happens to their children or their grandchildren. Like we really, really need to rise up against this and stop it. And it is being stopped. And I do believe that it will continue to be exposed. And I feel like it's a season of justice. That's what I feel. And we need to just be strong and endure this and continue to do what you're doing now. Continue to expose this form of abuse.
Hmm.
Link up with those like Robert Garza, Madison from Anti Alienation Project. Those who are already doing a movement against this. And let's continue. I mean, they bred us. We're not going anywhere. We're mothers and fathers, and
Yeah.
you ripped a portion of us, and we still have to live life and take care of our other children. But do you think we're not going anywhere? They bred us. So
Yeah.
even if our children, my whole children's childhood has been engulfed in this, I'm going to fight for other people's children now in honor of
Right.
mine.
Yeah.
So they can't quiet us down. This is not going to go away. We will demand that professionals that have the power to make changes, make changes. I do believe that children's books also need to be written regarding, I think children's books need to be written on all forms of abuse and being read to in elementary schools appropriately because these biological children, biological parents are the ones abusing the children. And these children need to be educated. Like when mommy is saying bad things about daddy, that's, I don't know exactly how it could be worded, but
Right.
appropriate for children to know that's not right. And they could begin to speak up in school, in elementary schools, even homeschool children. It should be required that they go in person to take tests on being knowledgeable, kid appropriate. Obviously, we taught our children what sexual abuse is, because they need
Yeah.
to know. Children need to know what parental alienation is. They need to know when one parent is heavily speaking negative about their parent constantly, that's not okay. And if they have the opportunity to speak up, then they have the opportunity of getting help way back then before it gets so severe that the kids now have no. Look what happened in my case. My kids had no
Yeah.
choice but to comply. And then when my son wanted me again to start a life with me again, he got attacked.
Wow. Or at least I would love that schools, any places children go, like schools, therapists, providers, that they again have more knowledge on these topics, because even a child going to school, if they see them everyday life, teachers, the principal, whoever, they might see patterns or see certain things that are off. I wish at least more signs were there where they could see the signs or understand, and again, to your point, like that should be a criminal type of case, not just civil when it's to that extent. So why can't it kind of go that route where then even schools are knowledgeable on this and have a process maybe to start pointing that out, not just call the cops or whatever, but have like this process to go through of, this is parental alienation or this is not correct to be happening to the child, something along that extent.
I think this is where you and I are coming in place where we need to teach them what to look for. And then
Mm-hmm.
they need to really give ear at this point. It's been a decade. Many of us suffered a decade, and our children outgrew this and still going through it to a degree, but we're still here, because that's how devastating this is. And we want no other child to ever experience this. And if we need to do something about this. So yes, I think that they need to be educated on what to look for, because the alienator, the pathogenic parent is confusing everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get a system. Like, I like Robert Garza's system, the three strikes law, but we do need to get a system on, like, okay, what do these pathogenic parents do and what would a healthy parent do in this situation? The pathogenic withholds the kid completely for life. The healthy
Yeah.
parent will agree to supervise visits, with the right professionals, with the right help and stuff like that. That's already one
Mm-hmm.
way to vet who the pathogenic parent is or not. One is
Yeah.
trying to sabotage and sever the relationship completely. The other is wanting safety. A
Mm-hmm.
wraparound system. A wraparound system helped me with my children. That is crucial. So what helped me in my parental alienation case? I fought hard for my children with the help of an attorney who went in debt for me and my children,
Yeah.
with court corruption involved. So it was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Um, um, well, conjoined therapy helped my situation. That's how I reunited with my children. And Dorsey Pruder, um, that lady helped me a lot. She, when parents go through this, we get stuck in trauma, and we still, as we talked before you started this
Yeah.
episode, like, we still go through trauma. Actually, daily we develop PTSD, and we
Mm-hmm.
have to learn how to regulate daily, because daily our children are still gone from us, and daily we know they are with somebody who does not have their best interest.
Yeah.
Our daily, our children are forming without it. Can you imagine other parents that are not, separated from your children, if, you know, you're apart from your child that way? But
And to that point, people who aren't either aware or haven't experienced it, I understand that it's not really until you experience something firsthand that you get the full scope or see the importance of it. But so for people who haven't, I like to say, it's still important to know of this, because what if it happens to your child? What if it happens to their
exactly,
child? This could all
exactly.
happen at any point, and then you could experience it.
I think the reason why you and I are even saying it like this, because I can hear it in your voice too, is because we've been crying out for help for years, and sometimes people look the other way, and
Hmm.
there are a few that are brave enough to help, And
Yeah.
in my case, there's been the wraparound systems with help me and my children. I don't know if we'd be here right now if it wasn't for the wraparound system.
So
Get involved in therapy, yeah.
what's the wraparound system, maybe
So
for people who aren't aware?
basically, any and everyone that I could get involved in mine and my kids' case, I got as many eyes on us as possible. Detectives involved, Family Justice Center. I would go to organizations. I would enroll my children
Yeah.
in therapy. I would get conjoined therapists. I would reach out to attorneys. I would go pro bono. I did everything possible to get as many eyes and hands on us as possible,
Hmm.
because even with us, and we were heavy in the court, minors counsel involved, horrible situation there, horrible experience there, but heavily, heavily, heavily eyes, and still the degree that we suffered. I
Hmm.
could only imagine how it would have been if there was no wraparound system. So the wraparound system that I call with me and my kids is having them involved in therapy,
Hmm.
having them in trauma therapy, having their teachers involved, having them speaking to the emotional support, communicating with their teachers. Like, I literally, any and everyone I got involved in our case with wisdom, with
Yeah.
the right people. The right
Right.
people that could
Yeah.
help our children, the professionals that are around them, that are mandated reporters, things like
Mhm.
this. And I just and pastors, communities have been a witness to my decade-long attack with our children. So throughout the years, pastors have been involved. Just a wraparound system of support and eyes on us, because the attacks are very heavy, and if we don't do anything, we're going to lose our children. Our children can't fight for themselves. They deeply inside, they want their other parent, and they just can't show it because there's consequences like what my son experienced.
Yeah. And can I ask, I mean, 9 years is a long time. People do, in these situations, again, back to the point that it's always ongoing with a parent like that. So people do end up in court for a long time or constantly back to court because, again, that's the only answer you're given when dealing with someone like that. Um, During this time, do you have a current court order where you do have rights,
Well,
the
yeah,
rights, and
and
he's just breaking it,
he was
basically?
breaking the court orders the whole time, and then that's where court corruption comes in.
Hmm.
That's where judges, and they have a pattern. Again, just like all around the world, these alienators are doing the same things. Well, guess what? All us targeted parents talk to one another now through the power of the internet. Oh, their
Yeah.
minors councils are doing the same things. My minors
Yeah.
council got like 100 grand, want the court to pay her 100 grand. Even the court was like, and this woman was, I'm not going to speak about her here, but
Yeah.
there's court corruption in the courts, and judges are doing wrong. They make money off the parents, these high
Hmm.
conflict cases, parental alienation cases.
Yeah.
So they run with it. They're not holding the other parent accountable. Yeah, he was breaking. That's why I said Robert Garza's law would have protected us both ways, when he was withholding my kids, and also when the court ordered them back with abuse being found. It would have
Hmm.
protected us both ways.
Yeah.
And yeah, the judges are wrong. That's why, even though I'm going to say his name too, because I respect this judge. I'm not
Okay.
going to speak Judge Trin,
Okay.
Judge Leonard Trin. He held me 10 counts of contempt, even though it was wrong, because honest to God, like, my kids were going through the real deal.
Hmm.
But I have to at least respect that he made such a hard decision. And then my kids are with their father right now, and we've been praying, and again, wraparound system. I
Yeah.
have a wraparound system, eyes on us.
Hmm.
Um, But even though he held me 10 counts of contempt, these judges need to get more serious about parents withholding their children. And if there indeed is, abuse going on, Robert Garza's law, the three strikes law, will help us get the intervention we need to prove it, so that we can help stop this form of abuse in our generation.
Yeah. And I also wish they would recognize counter-parenting rather than saying you're a high conflict case, because that does put that impression on you that, oh, you're both high conflict parents when that's not the case. It would just be nice that that's truly recognized when it's one parent doing, I mean, that is true. They truly do everything.
This is the thing. The detective that has been helping my case for a very long time, he says, Sonia, people aren't going to believe you because it's
Right.
unbelievable. And the
Yeah.
judge himself, this judge has been a witness. He's been on my case for 3 years now, and he's very involved. He even was like, it's unbelievable. They cannot believe that I am
Right.
also, that I'm not doing what he's doing. They truly, a lot of them do think both parents are doing it. No, they need to hear us. In
Hmm.
parental alienation cases, it is truly, truly one parent. In fact, these cases are making gold out of the other parent, because we are doing everything possible to be the opposite of
Yeah.
the example our children are getting from their other parent. Because
Right.
we know, many of us studied, and once we found out our exes were narcissists, I'm sure many of us said, will my kids be exposed to it? And we found out, yes,
Right.
our kids are exposed to it. Will my kids turn out to be it? The only way we could stop it is what? Be the opposite example of what they're seeing. So
Right.
these cases, in fact, um, parental alienation cases are not only are they only one parent causing the trouble, but not only that, you have another parent who's genuinely acting righteous,
Hmm.
following the law, doing everything possible to maintain righteousness, to not do anything to possibly lose their children. Because
Right.
we're facing false accusation, we're facing slander, we're facing flying monkeys, we're facing all kinds of things. So we are on guard to make sure that we don't do anything that could jeopardize our children.
Yeah.
So not only in parental alienation cases is it one parent, but when you have long cases like this, it's just more than likely you have a very um, uh, another person who's doing everything in their power to do right, because
Yeah.
they are in the judicial system and they understand consequences. And
Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
I've learned, through therapy and different professionals that who are knowledgeable on, narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, that is a real thing. So they are wired differently. Though that's why so many, us, we don't know each other, and yet the other parent, they can act very similar because they're narcissists. It's a true term. I mean, it's a true term.
Right.
It's a true characteristic and traits. That's why they all portray very similar traits. So to know that, this is a very real thing, and that's why so many act very similar because they're wired that way. So it should be known that we don't act the same way they do. We don't think or process the
Yeah.
same way they do.
Exactly. There's a way to vet this, and this is why we, as targeted parents, need to come together and create a system to help. Robert Garza is doing great. There's a lot of people already doing something. That's why, like, I'm encouraged. There was a time where, I'm sure you too, on the floor crying, devastated, like begging God for deliverance, for help, and
Hmm.
I believe that time is here. And let's just keep doing what we're doing. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do believe we need to come together and create more of a system where we could vet the pathogenic parent, because they
Hmm.
disguise themselves as the victim and then they get the children to go along with it. So now it's a real issue, because there are children that are genuinely going through abuse that speak up.
Yeah.
And then, yep. So yeah, I think that's something that we could work on as targeted parents, like to create
Yeah.
more of a system that will help vet. And there are ways to do that. Like I said, in my case, I'm not withholding my children. The court did order them back to somebody very like that. I can't even explain right here in this video.
Yeah.
Um, but we're following the court order. Even my children are brave. My children, my
Are
children.
they Are they of age to, I mean, I know you mentioned they are, at least one of them or more are a little older. Did they have to speak to the judge at all or go in and
Oh, my
interview?
children have been dragged in court, even though
Okay.
like he wanted them to testify in court, even though it would have benefited me. I tried to prevent it because, and you don't want your kids to have that lifelong memory. But
Right.
he demanded it, and my kids testified in court. The judge deemed them credible, and that's why the kids were with me the last 2 years. And it's been my case. It's very confusing. That's why I'm not speaking of my case specifically, because
Yeah.
it's messed with a bunch of chaos and confusion. Because throughout the years, that's how it's maintained in the judicial system so long.
Hmm.
Because there's one parent that is throwing a bunch of lies to confuse everything,
Yeah.
and then so we're.
Did they, and I know we're not getting into a bunch of specifics. I'm just curious, did they actually have to go in and testify on stand in front of both of you, or are they taken just separately, one-on-one with the
Well, in
judge?
our case, it was in front of both of us, so yes. And then my
That's even
children,
worse.
no, you have no idea. You have
Yeah.
no idea how bad it's been for my children. They have been retaliated upon. They have
Hmm.
finally got really brave and did everything they're supposed to do. And the court failed them, CPS failed them.
Wow.
My kids
Well,
had PTSD. My kids suffered.
yeah.
They got retaliated. Like, it's just, I just pray that it stops. I pray that even now that they're all the parents that are doing this will realize like how devastating it is for their kids, and please stop.
Yeah.
Just please stop and be a parent to them. You
Hmm.
know, at this point they kind of got away with it, but it's a matter of time before the law cracks down on this like they did in the Ted Bundy days. That's why people aren't murdering and raping people anymore. I'm sorry if I can't say it like that. I know it sounds very
Yes.
vulgar,
No, I
but that's how
understand.
severe this abuse is,
Right.
that it needs to get cracked upon like
Hmm.
that. And it's a matter of time before these parents will go to jail. They will go to jail if they continue, and it's a warning.
Hmm.
It's a warning to them. They better stop now. If all those that did it prior got away with it, they better stop now. They will go to jail, and I'm gonna help make sure of that in my lifetime if they
Well,
test that way.
this creates, it's known. You can ask professionals, medical professionals, therapists, whoever, who again are knowledgeable on this. It is known that this can create long-term effects on children. They could become, they're more susceptible to suicide even, or drug addiction, just all kinds of horrible things that leads down a really bad path. And we don't want that for our children. So we need to find ways to prevent this and help the children early on as much as possible.
And Do you see how you and I are even like trying to convince people like why they should help us, because we've had to beg people throughout the years, like,
Hmm.
believe me, please
Right.
believe, because and even
It
now we're like, we
does.
shouldn't have to be that way. We shouldn't have to be like, please, like, you guys also help us because this is our children, but like we're trying to pitch why they should help us, like it could happen to your children, but the truth of the matter is your child could marry somebody like this, and we need to
Hmm.
get intervention for the children who are exposed to narcissism,
Yeah.
personality disorder, sociopathic parents. We need to intervene for those children so they don't grow up to become that way.
Hmm.
Even though, as a matter of fact, even to the narcissist and sociopath, there has to be a way to help them too. That's why I'm saying maybe they weren't aware of how severe this is. Maybe now that a lot of people are exposing it and they're like, oh, dang. Maybe, or if maybe that's not enough, they will fear jail. None of them like jail.
Right.
So that's right around the corner, but maybe they will like have an awakening, like, because, they
Yeah.
don't feel the same ways we do. There's like the lack of empathy and all that
Right.
stuff. Maybe they're not
Hmm.
realizing how severe it is.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
I
the
mean
call.
they do truly believe they're, this top superior person typically, where they truly believe they're always right. They have the control, the power. And I think obviously a narcissist, a true narcissist is not going to on their own be like, "Yes, I'm a narcissist, I need help." So, if courts see this pattern, if they can prove this, please change it where you
Right.
order help on them or do something.
Right.
So,
That's the truth is. I did a lot of study on them because I was going through what I was going through. Who knew that
mhm,
for a decade I would study psychopaths and stuff like that? But
right.
a lot of them, they don't want to stop. They want to hurt people.
Mhm.
What makes them stop? I don't want to go to jail. I want to obey the law, straight up. They're
Yeah.
honest about it. They like hurting people, but they don't want to go to jail. So the law needs they need to. These parents probably don't care, but you know what? You're going to go to jail, and that
Mhm.
is enough to stop them. That's why they're not still murdering and raping people. Where the psychopaths didn't fall off the earth?
Right.
Where are they at? Or
Yeah.
maybe they're manifesting this way around the world.
Yeah. And my child's father, he has alienated off and on over 15 years, and he's had him for long spans of time and gotten away with alienation. So the but he always targets me. He's still, even while having my son, still does what he can, abusive language, just finds ways to, plot against me. So people often ask, he has your son. Why is he doing this to you? I don't understand.
So
And
it
so
didn't
that's
end even after the complete alienation. It's still an
right.
onslaught
And
attack on you.
so exactly. And so that's a very simple way to put it, that, the child, that clearly shows the child is not their interest. It is you. They want to attack you. They want to have control. They just want to control the whole situation and be, the superior one. And so,
So I wonder if it's actually, then would it be right to say parental alienation is domestic violence and child abuse by proxy? Because the reason why they're doing it is, but it's a matter of time before parents like them abuse their own children anyway. It's a matter of time.
well, yeah, and
It's out different
that
ways.
clearly it's been a part of your case, as you mentioned earlier, and that's been a part of my case as well. So I know people can say, for example, let's say that narcissist is abusive towards you, and then someone might say, oh, well, that doesn't mean they'll be abusive towards the children. I kind of disagree, because if it is a narcissist, that's their nature. It will come out in some way or another, whether it's the same abuse, it will be some form of abuse.
Yeah, and that's where the line has to be drawn as well, though, because like one, the minors council's A, like she said, the courts don't take away people for being narcissists, and
Right.
she made a point. There are people that are narcissists that didn't choose to be that way, but when they act in ways that are infringing on our rights, it has to be, because yeah, if they're narcissists, sucks to have a parent that doesn't care
Right.
for you the way a parent could care for you, but that alone shouldn't be able to take their children from them. That's how you
Right.
know who the abusive parent is or the pathogenic parent is or not.
Hmm.
Even us parents that are like, dang, they're narcissists. We know what they're capable of doing, but they still have a right to their kids.
Hmm.
It's not until abuse comes out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and parental alienation, they're narcissists. That sucks to have a parent that's like that. I pray they get help so they could be better to those around them. But it's when they do abuse. Parental alienation is abuse.
Yeah.
That's where like they cross the line.
Right. And we're not in it. That is the difference to your point. Like the healthy parent, is not in it to go in and remove the child from that other parent's life. That's not our goal
Right.
until obviously something severe, like severe abuse or
And even then, even in
things
my
can
case,
happen. Yeah.
severe, and still a healthy parent will trust the guidance of the court and a wraparound system. You don't think I was terrified? I'm trusting God. I'm
Right.
trusting, Judge Trin. I'm trusting, so even in those situations, there's absolutely no reason why a parent should be withholding their children like this. There
Right.
are professionals that can get involved, like my case,
Hmm.
so yeah.
And so just to know where we're at right now, again, not needing specifics to everything, but about the contempt and possibility of
Yes.
jail, is that completely gone? You don't have to
Oh, thank
worry
God.
now?
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, I had that dream that I was going to be used as whatever, like that. God was going to use it, and then the judge. I wrote a letter to my abuser. Actually, my sister, my husband told me to write a letter, and I was out of it, that weekend and that morning for court. I sat down and I just started writing, and I apologized to my ex for any hurt that I've given him throughout marriage. I didn't do anything after marriage like he's doing. I don't
Right.
claim that type of, but whatever hurt that I just wanted the opportunity. One, it felt kind of bad because it kind of felt like I had to abuse to somebody, say sorry to somebody who was hurting me. But at the same time, that was my opportunity to get clear conscience for me.
Yeah.
So I apologized to the court. I asked for mercy and grace. And the judge said that he contemplated giving me the full sentencing. But I basically left the lion's den without a scratch. He gave me community service. I go to the beaches anyway, pick up trash anyway, just for my outing time. So
Yeah.
I got community service. I did break down in court. I think God used my tears, though. I felt like a flood come over me. And when he said that, as soon as he said the word, I believe that you are sincere. As soon as he said, I believe, I
Yeah.
felt one tear come and then like a floodgate.
Hmm.
Because and my husband told me afterward, like, we just want to be believed.
Hmm.
Victims want to be believed. And then,
Right.
we're over here saying this is truly happening to us, and they're not believing us. And I get why so many like Judge Trin. I think he's a righteous man. I get why there was confusion. I get it. This is hard.
Hmm.
But we need to find ways to vet them, and there are ways, and us coming together, having these communications, and maybe setting something up where we can get targeted parents together and come up with ideas on
Hmm.
how to. That's why these laws are being established. Actually,
Hmm.
three
Yeah.
strikes law. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We could jump on board with those who are already are on there.
Hmm.
Robert Garza, three strikes law, time taken, time back law. There are a few others out there that are, but I know God connected me with Robert Garza in a very supernatural way for me, and I'm gonna help, in that direction, and whatever we could do to add,
Yeah.
protect people.
Hmm.
These people were willing to hear it from us. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, they created the law. Like, everybody unite, get our ideas, find out how we can stop this, expose them, so that it can stop.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely a united front that everyone knows the system is not kind of up to par. Something needs to change. The process needs to be better to protect children, protect family dynamics. So hopefully it goes that direction.
I do want to say this too. A lot in the judicial system, the officers of the court, they agree with this. A
Hmm.
lot of attorneys, they're. That's why this attorney stayed on my case and went 50,000 in debt. I plan on paying him back when the Lord blesses me. But I could honor him as of now. And a good name is to be chosen over riches rather than riches. And Peter Thompson is a good man, a good attorney, and he proved it. He helped me get my son back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I'm here. My name is Sonya Gaines. I'm not going anywhere. They made an advocate out of me, and I'm doing this in honor of my children and for all children. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on again and speaking out the way you're doing and advocating. I really hope more people, and I know it is hard, like we've spoke of earlier, there is trauma, there's PTSD. It can be very hard to speak out and share our stories, or even knowing we could be retaliated on from the narcissist knowing we're speaking out. So it can be very hard. So I do appreciate that you are doing that and you're being strong and you want justice. So
Has been a decade of silence though, because for
right.
a decade I was in
I did
trem-
too. I understand
trembling.
that. Yeah. And
But yeah,
I think all of us go through phases where we really truly are silenced and hopefully come to a point where we can work on healing and be able to speak out and come together and fight for this.
one more thing I do want to say is all of us come together, use our strengths and weaknesses. My strength is not speaking in legislation because I have a lot of anxiety in that area, but
Yeah.
I can traffic people to Robert Garza, who's teaching people how to speak to
Mm-hmm.
legislation.
Yeah.
So your platform here, like just continue. I guess what I'm trying to say is let's continue to do what we can do to
Yeah.
stop this because it'll all eventually come together and then we will have a big unit putting all the pieces together to
Right.
stop this.
Right. And even sharing our stories, I mean, it just shows the length, the extent. Because for me, you know, and you kind of touched on it earlier, when we do feel silenced, it feels like no one will believe us. Like no one goes through this. No one's going to believe us. We sound crazy. So the more that are shared, the more stories, it really does show this is a true issue.
Oh yeah, there was somebody, I did a post yesterday, I think, and then there was a girl that said, oh my God, I've been going through this for 6 years and I've told nobody about this. I'm dying. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I want to hold her.
Hmm.
I had a wraparound system around me the whole entire time. And it still is very severe. Still,
Yeah.
but these parents need support. People are committing suicide.
Right.
And these parents really need whoever watches this, if you care about righteousness, if you care about justice, if you have a burden in your heart to help people, we need your help here. We need voices here. We need, targeted parents, these parents that are suffering this way. Oh my God,
Yeah.
they need intervention. They really need intervention. Dorsey Pruder helped me. I was very traumatized, suffering, like, oh my God, berserk. And then she kind of slapped me out of it. She's like, I get it. I get it. All of your exes are pathogenic. They're all doing the same things. I get it. But at that time, it was barely, processing. And
Yeah.
she said, your children need you to get better so you could be a soft spot for them to land on. And then
Exactly.
that brought me back to reality. And I started my healing process to be a soft spot for my children to land on.
Exactly. And that's a perfect point to make. We are, you know, not undermining the feelings that all the parents have who are going through this, but we still have to think of we want to be that safe space for the child if they can or do come back around.
It's crucial for targeted parents to understand what their kids are going through because some
Yeah.
targeted parents are also taking offense. Like, oh, my kid said, oh, targeted parents, your children need softness, they need gentleness, they need support, and you need to build yourself up in order to give that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need tender care, not any form of judgment. They need you to just open your arms when the time comes and just tell them, like, that this is not their doing. This
Yeah.
is 100% the doing of an adult that has pressured them into this. They would not have done this if that pressure wasn't upon them.
Right. They were taught it and told to do this. So,
Well, I thank you very much for having me on here.
yes, of
And
course.
anything I could do to help stop this
Yeah.
form of abuse, I'm here.
Thank you for listening to You Can't Break Us. If this episode spoke to you, subscribe and leave a review. Every voice matters. Every story counts. If you or someone you know has a story to share, email youcan'tbreakuspodcast@gmail.com to connect with me. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and never stop using your voice. Because no matter what they've tried to take from us, they can't.